Tēnā koutou katoa, no mai, haere mai. Thanks so much, James. My name is Hannah Dahlke. I am a Creative Spaces funding advisor for Putanga Toi ki Aotearoa, Access Aotearoa. I'm a Pakeha woman with long brown hair, and I'm wearing a blue and white top with a dark blue cardigan. Behind me are a couple of houseplants and a window looking out to the trees. I use she, her pronouns. I'm joining this hui from the Tasman region of Te Tauihi, the top of the South Island. I was born and raised here and have ancestors who trace back to England and Europe. And my immediate whānau hail from America. So here we are for the last session of day one for the 2022 Ngā Wahi Awaha Creative Spaces Conference. Big welcome to everyone. It's really great to have you tuning in. And also a big thank you to all of the speakers we've had so far today. And for that wonderful dance activation with Sumara from We Dance. It was very much needed, I think, at this point of the day. So it's an honour and a privilege to be here today to be providing support for this afternoon's discussion. And as James mentioned, this session is called Access Employment, Creating Career Pathways. And we have individuals from 3 different creative spaces with us to share their journeys, insights and learnings. And we also have Dan and the team from Connect, it's the New Zealand Sign Language Interpreting. So thanks for joining us today as well. So firstly, we'll hear introductions from each creative space and hear more about the work that they do and the communities that they engage with. Then we'll move through some prepared question prompts to dive deeper into this topic. And near the end, we'll hopefully have time for a brief Q&A. So do pop any questions that you have into that Q&A tab in the conference app. So in the virtual room today, we have Lynn, Josie and Michael from Jolt Dance in Ōtautahi, Christchurch. We've got Mandy from Kākano Youth Arts Collective in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland, and Sally and Joelle from Hobson Street Theatre Company, also in Tamaki Makaurau. So kia ora to you all and welcome. So first up, I'm going to pass it over to you, Sally, to tell us a little bit about Hobson Street Theatre Company and the work that you do.
Thanks, Hannah. Kia ora koutou, ko Ngāti Pākehā, tōku iwi, ko Orotia, Tamaki Makaurau, tōku kāinga, ko Sally Barnett, tōku ingoa. I just want to echo your words, Hannah, to acknowledge all the speakers that have come before us today. It's been a wonderful day, and myself and Joelle are from the Hobson Street Theatre Company, and we're also representing all of our members and our artistic director Bronwyn Bent, who isn't here with us today. Would you like to?
Kia ora koutou, Nisambula Vinaka. My name is Joelle Thacker. No Fiji aho, rawa ko Ruapehu, rawa ko Taranaki. I'm feeling very, very grateful to be here today. I managed to catch some of the other speakers during the day. And there's been some wonderful thoughts and ideas and practices on how we can better produce artwork that talks to all different types of communities in our land.
We're aware that we need to visually describe ourselves as well. So I feel a bit like your description double today, Hannah, but I am a Pākehā woman in my 50s, and I have a blue and white shirt on and long dark hair in a ponytail.
And I am an albino Fijian. I'm wearing a Fitness 45 truckers cap, which is a little bit ironic. And I've got probably a weak stubble, which I'm trying to grow a beard for a show. And I think I might have left it too late.
And coming to you from Tamaki Makaurau, from Joelle's flat, just off Queen Street. So it's a beautiful day up here. Hobson Street Theatre Company is a theatre company that was developed in 2010 in partnership with the Auckland City Mission. So our vision is to use theatre as a way to share stories of those with lived experience of homelessness, or people who live in financial precarity of some sort. So we started in 2010 with all of us as volunteers, and we ran weekly drop-in sessions up at the Auckland City Mission. And then slowly as we grew, we started to be fortunate enough to be funded by Creative New Zealand, Foundation North and others, until the point where we are now, where we received the Creative Spaces funding from the Ministry of Culture and Heritage last year, so that we are now able to extend our outreach work into the community. Yeah, anything you'd like to add?
No, I'm pretty good with what you said.
Okay, great. So as we are currently, we have a professional theatre company, and just to clarify, I heard what James Nakisi was saying before around, you know, people being paid in their roles. When we're talking about career pathways today, we very much are talking about the distinction between unpaid and paid roles within our company, and how we create a structure around what those roles are, and how we kind of create a scaffold so that people can move through into those roles from beginning as participants. That is enough from us.
Kia ora, Sally and Joelle. It's great to have you here. Mandy, I know you're having some internet connectivity trouble, so it's great to see that your video is up and running now. That's wonderful. So, Mandy, if it's okay, I'd like to just pass it over to you to tell us a little bit about Kakano Youth Arts Collective and to introduce yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Kia ora koutou. Apologies for me sort of running all over the estate trying to find a good spot to come through nice and clear. So I'm a Pākehā woman in my mid-40s. I am currently in a very busy office space with lots going on around me. I'm wearing black. I've got sort of medium long brown hair and some bright red lipstick on, just for kicks, just for the audience. So I am the director of Kakano Youth Arts Collective. We are based at Corbin Estate Arts Centre in West Auckland. And we started as a pilot program in 2013, recognising the need for some of our more vulnerable young people to have a space to engage creatively and really just have a chance to express themselves. I, in 2013, was the arts education manager at Corbin's, and I was getting lots and lots of phone calls from police, social workers who were working with young people, and I was getting phone calls asking me if we had any programs which might suit them, and short answer was we didn't. So after one too many of those phone calls, I stretched my job description as far as it could go, and I got some funding from then Child, Youth and Family and ran a pilot program with 5 young people who had come through the justice system. It was so successful that I quit my job, jumped in boots and all, and now nearly 10 years later, we're thriving. So we have around 15 young people aged between 12 and 22. We have a fantastic gallery, which we're very proud of. It's just recently opened in March, and our gallery houses all of the work that we make in our studio. It's run by our young people. It's sourced, all the work is sourced from what they've created, and a large percentage of the profits go back to them. So we're really proud of that, and that's also helping to uplift the entire community as well. It's a low socioeconomic area, so it's somewhere that we want to invest a lot of energy into. So a lot of our young people have been with us for a number of years, some as long as 6 years, and we're just really proud of the fact that we've created, a home and a place for them where they really feel like they belong and can express themselves, and we can help just walk alongside them through some of the trials and obstacles that they might face.
Kia ora,
And it's about
Mandy.
us. Kia ora.
Thank you. That's really incredible to hear about that journey. Thank you for sharing. So now I'll pass it on to you, Michael, to tell us a little bit about Jolt in Christchurch and to introduce yourself and your team.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Michael, as Hannah's mentioned, and beside me is Josie.
Hey.
And our amazing artistic director, Lynn Cotton, who's been with us for years. So just a quick overview of what Jolt does. About me, I'm in my late 30s, nearly in 40s. I'm wearing a Jolt t-shirt, a Jolt jersey, as you can see, and I'm wearing black tracksuit pants. Overview of Jolt, we offer a diverse range of people who have intellectual needs in Aotearoa, Christchurch. We offer people to become dancers or a dance teacher. We have an extensive performance program, and we also offer community engagement. For example, like taking workshops and community classes. Our vision is to give people with disabilities an opportunity to explore and connect with others, and basically, quite, to have their own voices.
Do you want to introduce yourself, Josie?
Hey, my name is Josie Noble. I'm wearing glasses with a blue Jolt sweatshirt and jeans and brown hair and a hairband. I'm 32 years old, born with Down syndrome. And I've been in Jolt for 11 years, which is pretty good coming from it. And I like being part of Jolt because there's a Jolt family as well.
Oh, nice, Josie. Kia ora koutou, ko Lynn Cotton, tōku ingoa. We're down here in Aotearoa, Christchurch, so I'm the director of Jolt, Inclusive Dance Company. It's really wonderful to be here. I'm sort of here just to support Josie and Michael, who will be talking today. Just a couple of things to add to what Michael said. We've got about 160 dancers down here. Our focus is on training for people to be dancers, and we've got a special program for them to be dance teachers as well. And so all of our dancers have intellectual disabilities, and we work with a really wide range. Our community is really beautifully diverse, and we love it. And I'm really proud of these two, and I'm just happy to be able to work with this community. So thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Kia ora, Michael, Josie and Lynn. It's wonderful to have you here. So great. That was awesome to hear a little bit about the mahi and the work that you all do. As you all know, the sector is made up of a really wide variety of creative spaces in terms of different communities of focus, different ways of operating and running, and differences in creative medium offered. So it's great to hear about some of that variety come through just now, and also hear about some of the clear threads that connect you all as well. So now I'd like to dive a little bit deeper into what career pathways actually look like within each of your organisations and how they came about and how they were implemented. So Josie, I'd love to bounce back to you. So the question is, what are some of the career pathways within Jolt?
In Jolt, we created the MOVE program as a career pathway. And it teaches Jolt dancers to be leaders, and you have how to be dance tutors. And it's the first course in New Zealand that's offering this with people with disabilities, and it's actually quite cool of doing it. Mm-hmm. And as part of this course that we are doing, we learn skills in teaching, assisting, and planning. And we have community classes that come in during the day in the course. and that we teach and assist people in. And we also teach in workshops in the community, at schools and at rest homes. And we have a new thing that's going on this year called the Disability Leaders, which is for some of the Move tutors have become disability leaders this year in job classes. And there's anything that's happened is a paid job as well. And some of the Move tutors, like Michael, have their own dance class and are dance teachers in that. So, and others assist, and it's also a paid job as well. And some of and also teaching community workshops and residencies from the Move tutors that we have as well. So, yeah.
Did you want to talk about your Arts Integrated?
So, as part of my work, I also do work with Arts Integration, which is a group with people like myself who have disabilities, and I teach them twice a week. And I've been in it for 12 years, and I absolutely love it because as a role model, I get to pass on my years of experience to them and see their smiling faces. Just makes me so proud.
Yeah, so the MOVE program is our main career pathway that we've created, and it's grown slowly and has infiltrated all parts of Jolt now and starting to infiltrate outside too. Yeah.
Mandy, I was wondering if we could bounce to you next to tell us a little bit about the career pathways within Kakano. Looks like you're still on mute, Mandy.
Our main direction, I would say at the moment, is our gallery. So we've currently got 8 young people working in our Kakano gallery, and it's open 5 days a week. We've also just put a coffee machine in there, so they've all had training in making fabulous coffees. So that in itself is a whole lot of new skills and new work experience to go on their CV. We also have a wonderful relationship with Unitec, so we've sent a number of our young people off to study, and we walk alongside them with the help of some really good connections with tutors at Unitec, so that we can just keep in touch and make sure that they're keeping up to date with the schoolwork and understanding all the briefs. And if there's any issues, they'll come to us in the first instance, and we can help to work through that. We also have, wherever possible, we're really trying to individualize each of our young people's journeys and just work with them to figure it out, to figure out what the next steps are. So we've sent some of our kids off to work in the film industry. Some just go into jobs that are a little bit more hands-on. So a few of our boys have gone into the building and the scaffolding industry. We're really fortunate that we have a youth support worker who can help to facilitate and create some of the connections. So we've got some key avenues, but we're also just always looking for any opportunities that come our way that might suit, individual situations.
Great, thank you. Joelle or Sally, would you like to chime in?
Yeah, sure. I'll take first dig at this one. The career pathway that we've created was from participants. We've tried to make available the assistant facilitator role to begin with for our participants, and from there, people become cast members. Actually, it's the other way around: cast member through to assistant facilitator. And in my case, I've been lucky enough, because of this funding that we've been given last year, to be able to get a job with my mate here, working alongside her as the outreach coordinator for HSTC at the HSTC outreach program. So yeah, I mean, everybody's different, and I think it's important to note that everybody's different, and so each person, you need to take each person on their own merits as to what their needs are and the best way that they can learn and grow in that situation.
Wonderful, thank you. So that was all really interesting. So we've heard a lot about the what now, and we have a bit more of a clearer picture of each of your organisations' work in this area. So now I think it's important to dive deeper into the why. Why did you all decide this was a priority? Were there gaps? Was it in a response to something? So just opening up the floor now for anyone who would like to dive in and answer that question.
Yeah,
well, I'll go first, actually. Ours came about accidentally. I started Kākano as a pilot, as I mentioned, but it just gathered momentum and became really important and too important to stop. And what was happening was that we ended up with a backlog of rangatahi who really didn't have anywhere else to go or be, and were starting to get a little bit too big to be with us all the time. So it really just came as a need to start figuring out how we could help them to have the same support they had with us, but in other parts of their lives moving forwards.
I'll jump in. It's important to have a dance teacher with a disability because we're our role models. And we are capable of being leaders. We see the world differently because I can understand about people with Down syndrome and in the personal family connections as well. And it's about inner strength because we show the world that people with disabilities are really capable of doing things that they dream of and want to do when they grow up, if they want to be as well.
Can I just add to that we were a few years into our Jolt journey, and I always knew that we had to somehow make a pathway for the dancers to have leadership roles, and I had no idea what that would look like, but we knew that we had to do it. But it took us quite a few years to understand how that might look. So it wasn't until 12 years in that we started off the MOVE program. But I knew that the need was there for such a long time. And when we started, we didn't really know what we were doing, but we just knew that we needed to start, that if we were going to be truly inclusive, and if, Michael, you were going to have your voice and Josie was going to have her voice, that we had to put training in place to make that happen. So, yeah, it's about empowerment. It's about, because you teach completely differently, don't you, Josie, to me?
Yes.
Or to Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess from Hobson Street Theatre Company perspective, we've got my dog's here, so occasionally he's making a bit of noise or wriggling around. When we started, we were all volunteers. So as soon as we could get some funding and resource and support, then the plan was always that we would bring everyone along together as a collective. We value everyone's voices in the co-creation process. And so for us, it was around saying, how do we then remunerate people in a way that is as reflective of the work that everyone is putting in to each of the shows that we create. So we all started as volunteers, and then as we were able to get funding, we asked for funding, and we have been lucky to receive funding so that we're able to pay everyone on our team. So if we're doing a production, we would pay everyone who is part of that production to, as I say, recognise their work in the same way that we would pay anyone in the theatre community when we have the resource to do so.
I can only back up what Sally's saying in terms of like what we found is that everybody who's been on shows or have become assistant facilitators have really appreciated the opportunity to be paid a competitive, fairly competitive wage for whatever that role is. And now we're about to take one of our other shows on the road next week. And again, we're in a situation where there's a few people that have only come on board in the last year. Well, one or two people. One's only been on board for a month. And already we've, as part of the Hobson Street Theatre Company performance side of it, already having the opportunity to be able to be in that situation where they're getting remuneration for their work.
Thank you. There's some really important points coming up in this discussion so far. Something I think that will be interesting to our audience today, which has been lightly touched on already, but is just around some of the challenges or barriers that you might have encountered when implementing some of these programs. Lynn, you spoke a little bit about, the time that it took around that. And so I'm just wondering if anyone would like to elaborate on some of the challenges that you encountered.
I think for us, it really is the unknown. There were no models to follow. There was, not that I particularly am into models, but there'd been nothing done before that gave us the pathway to follow. And I remember, because Michael and Josie, you were both in the first class that we started up. Yeah. And I can remember, because Nay and I knew that we had to set something up. We had to invest in training, and we had to allow time. It wasn't something that we were just going to create a role, put somebody into and tick the box. We had to empower as opposed to just create a space for. And when we started teaching in the one day, we had no idea what we were going to do, but we learned. And we grew really, really slowly. So I always feel like we're playing catch up, and I'm really proud of the fact that now that we're in a position that we can pay people. So these guys have been working really hard to become teachers, and now that we can actually give them at least some pay. But the dream is to be able to pay people full time, and that it's your permanent job. So. Funding is still definitely an issue, but yeah, I suppose the challenge was in just what was the journey going to look like, and being brave to take the first step and allowing ourselves to fail was really important. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, even though I found had in the first notes that I had that came out with funding as well.
Oh yeah, funding, yeah.
Yeah, and with COVID lockdown, so it's quite tricky as well. Yeah. And getting the time on in some activities, you get stuck on and stuff. And pushing with how problems that got in the way a bit as well, and still getting shy at times around new people when they come in and stuff like that. That's always been a challenge for me.
Yeah, nice. That's just
Yeah, okay. The biggest challenges, I guess, for me has been that I'm having to wear 3 different hats. One is outreach coordinator, another one is HSTC participant, and the other one is an assistant facilitator. And for somebody who's not used to minding their P's and Q's, it's been quite challenging to work that out, how I act accordingly in with either any of those different hats on. But it's a really good challenge, and I'm just really stoked that to be in it, and just to hear Josie and Michael and Lynn and have those same stories about just adjusting to what's in front of us. Yeah.
I'm going to pick up the keyword funding. Sorry, did I just interrupt you then? I think we can all agree that funding probably is something that we struggle with. And I know from our perspective, we don't have enough of it. And when we are trying to link a young person with the next steps in their life and connect them with potential employers or more study, there's a whole lot of wraparound work that needs to happen there. I spoke to somebody about this the other day, and I sort of compared it to this, the saying, if you give a man a fish, he can eat for a day, or you give him a fishing rod, he can fish forever. But if you don't teach someone how to use that fishing rod, and if you're not there on hand to, receive a phone call when the fishing rod breaks, then it really doesn't, the fishing rod ain't going to hold up. So we are professional fishing rod fixers. So we are just always on hand to try and help remove some of the obstacles, and that costs money. That's our biggest hurdle, really.
I think I just want to add in there that one of the things we've found as an organisation is bringing people from all different backgrounds into an organisation where you're then having to try and all work within things like the same technical systems, communication systems. Where do you save your folders? How do you email? What are the, all of that really kind of structural stuff around an organisation that if, Joelle's come from a hospitality background, not used to working in the admin space. We also have a lot of facilitators, directors, artists, all sorts of people, but trying to just get everyone to communicate communication between all the different parties at the right level for that person. Some people that's via text, some people that's you need to rock up and have a cup of coffee with them, some people, and so all of that is possible, but it takes much more time and speaking to your point there, Mandy, it is that time availability. One of the things that I've found this year is my capacity to have that time to support properly while still trying to manage all the other things that you manage within an organisation. So that's been a real challenge. And the other thing is when, we all have different life lived experiences, and sometimes for people who come from the community that we're working with in the homelessness space, they have multiple challenges through health, mental well-being, financial, everything piles on top of each other. So when you're trying to support someone who has multiple challenges into a paid position where actually the participants in that workshop need to kind of be supported and come first because they're also vulnerable, managing that balance between the different people's needs, our facilitators, the participants in our workshop, and that can be quite challenging, moving people from that, hey, turn up when you're feeling well enough, to the next space of we kind of need you to commit and be here every week, and that can be a tricky space to navigate and push people too quickly through those changes. If that's the choice, the direction they want to take, then things can go quite wrong, both within the workshops for your participants, but also for that person, it can actually set them back rather than pushing them forwards. So those are some of the things that we've kind of been working through and talking around, and as you say as well, Lynn, there isn't doesn't seem to be much of a manual or a guide for us. So we we do our best to do no harm first of all, but otherwise you kind of it's a bit trial and error. Coming back to funding, Mandy, it's also trying to navigate with funders that this sort of work that we all do takes a lot more time, and there will be backward steps and forward steps. It's not a matter of just getting on a conveyor belt and popping out the other end with the results that we all like to see, right?
I think the beauty in trial and error, though, is that what you end up is a program that is bespoke for your community and speaks to the community, because you were going to talk about individual support, Jose?
Yes, to put in the right supports for the individual. So, when one of the trainees gets stuck, one of the other trainees comes in and helps, because we work as a team, because we have a group of trainees.
And you're going to talk about ongoing, just making sure it keeps going,
Basically, what I'm saying is basically have ongoing training to make sure it really, really works. It's basically just ongoing. Can't stress that enough.
I see it as ongoing professional development for our guys, so for the teaching, that we continue to upskill. Yeah. And it's not a case of that you do the course for a set amount of time and then you go. You stay in it for a long time and build your skills, and we just keep adding more tutors as we go.
Yeah.
Thank you all so much for your honesty and sharing some of those challenges and opportunities. And I really, at this point, just wanted to acknowledge, the time and energy, commitment, support and passion that you've all given to your organisations and your communities, especially over the last 2 years of the pandemic. It's a lot. So if you're there in the audience, please do remember to pop some questions in the Q&A tab, and we'll hopefully have some time to get to those. But I just wanted to pose to our panelists here, with your combined knowledge and experience in this topic, I'd love for you to share some more tips or advice to those creative spaces who are perhaps interested in implementing a career pathway for their artists, but haven't done so yet. So just opening up the floor for tips and advice.
Well, I guess ours comes down to good networking and communication. So first and foremost is conversation with our rangatahi to see what's important to them and what's going to work for them, and then looking for any options or any partnerships or connections that we can make that might help facilitate that. It's pretty organic in our instance. We really do just try to create links wherever we can and help sustain that relationship.
I would totally echo that, Mandy. We rely very much on our community partners, so the Auckland City Mission being our primary partner, but we're working with several more community partners to, while we come in and can work from a theatre facilitation perspective, we certainly do not have the capacity to or the skills to offer the wraparound support to all of our participants. So it's very important to us that we have people sitting alongside us, like the Mission, who we can refer people to if there are things within a theatre setting that we sort of say, hey, look, this is beyond the scope of what we're able to manage. So partner organisations are absolutely critical for us.
While we're with us, one of the things I've noticed is that because we're kind of like sailing uncharted waters in terms of what we're doing as an organisation, is that it's really important from what I can see is that to have a real clear guideline or conversation with whoever it is that's stepping into whatever role or a situation where they're needing to be more responsible or have responsibilities as part of that there are clear lines of communication and clear guidelines that people can come back and have those conversations on a regular basis, and if need be, and it doesn't matter how many times those questions can be asked or something needs to be shown, as long as those clear guidelines are there, I think it just makes it easier for all parties involved to move forward together.
And I guess just to add to that, one of the things that we've found is that, not everyone wants to move from that drop-in participant role into a more role of more responsibility, nor are they ready to. And we have had a couple of times where we've included someone because we've thought that they're ready, but actually they weren't ready. That was something that is obviously a learning for us, and will be an ongoing learning for us. When is someone ready and well enough within themselves to take the next level of responsibility, or actually are they getting what they need and want at the time from our drop-in sessions that have no responsibility, and you can just turn up when you're ready and enjoy the session.
Just like to summarise that we started small and we just built up and we're just really, really big. And in summary, we started doing workshops in 2017. Like Josie and I started teaching in schools with Lynn and Renee, pushing play on the music. Me and Rochelle, who's not here, but her and I started our Jolt class in 2019. And just to summarise, and this year, 8 of our 11 classes have a DL tutor in it, which means a disability leader. He or she can take activities with assistance from the main tutor or the assistant in that class.
Yeah, so starting small, eh?
Starting small and growing and just growing. Taking little baby steps.
And investing in training.
Yeah,
investing in mentoring and training is massive for our community because we're playing catch up.
Yep, we said, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you all.
Just before we wrap up, one more little thing. I think it's really important to know what you don't know as well, and bring in others that can help in the area wherever needed.
There's some really great little nuggets of wisdom there, so thank you. So we've got some really great questions coming in that I'd love to pose to you all. So we'll start with the first one at the top there. Do you have any thoughts or ways you manage remuneration for your community members without impacting other potential support they are receiving, so they can still continue their paid creative practice? So opening that up to the floor.
Yeah, I can jump in there. We're going through that at the moment. We're about to take Hobson Street Theatre Company on tour. And so all of our company members are paid. Several of our company members are on benefits with WINS, and so they're only able to be paid a certain amount per week without that impacting their benefit. So the simplest way we do that is just to have a conversation with each person and say, what's the best way to support you with your situation. And so for some people, we pay them under the current WINS. I think it's $160 a week. So we pay them weekly under that amount, but for a long period of weeks. So that doesn't impact on their other income. For other members, that's not a problem. They manage that themselves, and we pay them as we would anyone else.
Great, thank you. Let's move on to the next question, and perhaps Josie, Michael and Lynn, you could take a stab at this one. Would love to know the next step or milestone, what type of support is useful for taking people on this journey from participant to presenter or employment with your organisation?
What have you needed to become a teacher? What have you needed?
Needed ongoing regular training to become a teacher.
And what did you just say to me before?
And I was going to jump in and say, don't underestimate us. Because even though that's trying to have a voice in it, and it's becoming important for people with disabilities to have a voice in these things.
I think aspiration is really important. Individualised support is really important. In this community, I always say we don't know what is possible, and when we first did the workshops in the schools, Renee and I had one rule, and that was that we were not allowed to speak. So from the minute that the mainstream students came into the room, you guys taught, and that's what Michael said before. That's why he said that we just play the music, and that was our rule. So I think it's about dreaming big, like you were saying before. It's about being able to just create the space, and then you create the space, and then you go, okay, what isn't working and why isn't it working? And then you put in the training, the individual support for each person, whatever it is that you need. And that's why over the years with our MOVE program to get to where we've got to, is that every year something changed, something new evolved. We pushed the guys in a different direction, or we created a new leadership opportunity. And some worked, some didn't so much, but it's just creating the space first and then being really critically reflective within that space. Does that make sense? I hope so. I hope it answered the question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And it looks like we've got Mandy back. Great. I think you just dropped off for a little bit. So
we're just having such fantastic internet connection here. It's just, go technology.
It's okay. We all have that every now and then, don't we? Great.
I just wanted to add in about how important it is for us that our rangatahi are at the centre of everything that happens, and I think probably it's the same for all of our organisations, that and for our kids it's quite novel to them to be empowered in that way, and it really everything builds on from there.
Absolutely.
Great. Next question we have up there is, would love to know the next step or milestone that each of you are excited about in growing these kaimahi opportunities.
What do you want to do, Michael? What do you dream of? What would you like to do?
What would you like to do?
If I can jump in there, I think we are incredibly excited about Hobson Street Theatre Company having been invited to an international festival in March next year. So that will be a giant leap for all of us. We have 10 of us travelling at the end of March next year to an international community arts festival in Rotterdam. And that's something that, since we began, we've kind of talked about, where do we want to go? And I remember Wilf Holt, the senior social worker at the Auckland City Mission, in the early days saying we want to go to Edinburgh, the big arts festival in Scotland. And we all sort of went, oh, yes. But, finally we are heading overseas. Not that that's the be-all and end-all, but I know for many of our members it'll be the first time they have an opportunity to leave Aotearoa. And also we get to go and connect with a similar organisation in Rotterdam to create work with them in a collaborative way. So we're super excited about that.
Yes. What she said.
I'll jump in next if I may. So our gallery opened in Henderson in March, as I mentioned before, and we're pretty excited about the fact, well, I am especially, about the fact that we aren't just working with our rangatahi, we're really trying to create a bit more of a ripple effect for the wider community, and starting to try and bring back locally made, one-off bespoke businesses into a fairly unhealthy community. So we're hoping that what we're doing moves on and we get to know our rough sleeping whānau a little bit more from our base right in the middle of it all, and just start to spread out and create as much change as we can.
I think these guys are still thinking about their individual dreams, but for me, from when I set up Move to now, my dreams have just got bigger and bigger. I've got two dreams. My first dream is that I have a full-time paid teaching team, and we just are going out every day into schools and rest homes and teaching. And then my other dream is that Rochelle and Michael, who are sitting here, are going to be teaching the other teachers in Jolt. So they're going to be teaching me. They're going to be they've got to have developed their own practice to such an individual extent that they'll be teaching me. That's my dreams. Have you got dreams, guys? What do you want? Did you think something, Joseph?
Any dreams?
I can't think of any, actually.
Can't think of any at the moment. What about you, Michael?
Oh, I choreographed some new works because in October this year I choreographed my very first piece for my class, and it was a very interesting time.
Yeah. So more choreography, Michael.
More choreography for me.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. We're actually nearing the end of our session now, and I noticed there's quite a few more questions there. If you would like to get hold of any of the speakers in this panel to ask your question, if it's gone unanswered, or just continue the conversation, please feel free to contact them via the contact info on their websites, and these have all been hyperlinked there in the app with their session bios. And I also see there's a couple of questions in particular about funding, which is often something that's at the top of everyone's mind. So tomorrow we do have a session with Megan Thorne in the morning, I believe, and she will dive a little bit more deeper into the funding topic. So I just wanted to say kia ora ratu, Mandy, Josie, Michael, Lynn, Sally and Joelle. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and expertise in this topic with us all today. Definitely some important points, food raised for thought. It's been incredible. So passing it back over to you, James, to close us out for the day.
Kia ora.